Hi guys, my name is Anonymous Cheese and I'm the founder of Opalizard Studios, an indie game development company. We're back with Rainbow Heartbeats Devlog Part 2, this time with 50% more relevant recorded footage because in the first one the footage I had for that was all over the place. After the last devlog, I started to work on redesigning some sandpod icons for locations the player could visit. I felt that some of the ones I had needed a serious facelift and didn't seem to fit in with some of the other ones that I had already previously made. I also redesigned the relationship bars, both friendship and romance, because the ones I had were very plain and just didn't stand out at all. I finally got to work on doing the story modes for the first 6 characters and figuring out some of the intricacies. These look like they're super complicated, but they really aren't. Their stories are actually quite short. The first 6 characters are pretty easy to befriend, while other characters that will be introduced later will take longer to get to know, while also simultaneously having longer stories to work through. By making each character's story a different length, this changes up the pace of the game and also helps me recover from a writing oversight. The oversight being that I didn't write enough for the first 6 character stories. I even decided later on that some characters would have preferences, and those preferences would make it harder for you to befriend them. For instance, if you wanted to befriend and romance a bisexual character who has a preference for dating women and you identify as a man, your attempts to woo them will take longer to achieve success than if you were a woman. This hasn't been implemented yet, but will be later on. After this, my fiancé's cat passed away after a long fight with his advanced age. My fiancé was pretty devastated, so I took a break for a couple weeks to help them through it. Around this time, I also managed to give myself a fairly minor concussion. The story is really stupid. I quite literally missed the first step on my basement stairs going up and sent myself headfirst into the railing. It was both really funny and also really hurt. So I was out another week on debbing because I couldn't keep up with managing everything else on top of that. When I did get back to work, I finished the story routes and was pretty proud of myself, until I remembered that the story routes didn't have everything. I was missing location arts and using placeholders for them, there were side characters I hadn't completed and thought I could just put off doing, and there were graphics and sound effects I needed to make to really complete the whole experience. It was finished to a degree, but lacked refinement, and I just decided I couldn't release the demo like that. So I went back and determined what I needed to do to complete it, which included the art for 4 new locations, 4 side characters, 3 of which weren't planned when I originally did the character stories, and 3 pet arts, plus several graphics and a bunch of new sound effects. I also had to alter 2 characters and give them new character art to follow along with their stories, and include the art for 1 other main character who wasn't planned on being developed until later because he was necessary for a current character's story. This part of the process lagged around a lot because my day job was taking a mental toll on me that I just couldn't get a break from. Around this time, I reached out to my voice actors, as it had been 2 to 3 months since I'd cast them for their parts. The secret character and Alex's voice actor got their lines to me in the same week I cast them, mostly because I voice Alex. Anyway, 2 other voice actors got me their lines within a day of me asking, and as of right now at the time of writing this, I'm still waiting on 1 other voice actor who is overseeing 2 characters. Eventually, sometime later, I did have to recast those 2 characters. Rainash was taken over by someone I know, and Ani was cast as someone else who was interested in the role. Around this time, I took a break on any kind of heavy development with Rainbow Heartbeats to focus on another idea for a 2-month game jam. I participated in Yowie Game Jam 2021 and Snowfest 2021 with an idea that became a visual novel called All of My Tomorrows. Originally, this idea was going to be a 3D adventure game, still with heavy LGBTQ+ undertones, as the main player character was going to be voiceless until the very end, where his single line revealed that he was a man. But I felt that a visual novel was faster and really wanted to participate in a game jam and felt that 2 months was just enough time to get that done. So instead, I developed it for a 2D setting and I'm still really happy with it. If you want to check it out, the link is in the description. It's a free game, but of course, donations are great. At some point during this 2-month period, Casting Call, the place I pillaged regularly for beautiful voice talent on a website called Behind the Voice Actors, shut down. so I'd need to find a different place to find people to volunteer their time for my future projects and Rainbow Heartbeats. But in the meantime, the development needed to move on. Due to the experience I gained on the Game Jam project, there were a few things that needed to be changed with Rainbow Heartbeats, and a few things that needed to be added to make it easier moving forward. I condensed a lot of things and had to do some game resizing and UI adjustments to accompany it. I also redesigned the event bar, which held the month, day, year, player money, and where it would display event images, like when there was a full moon or a birthday. Events won't be fully implemented until the last update for the game, so when the demo is released, you won't be able to partake in these events and there won't be any benefits or images pertaining to them. I also did GIF design and the UI required for that, including some new Sampod app icons, an inventory system, and the convenience store UI. I decided that because giving a gift was a part of the core gameplay loop, it did need to be included in the demo, and that would mean that I'd have to code the currency system and get a functional store and inventory system working as well. And then my fiancé lost their job. I'll spare you the details. To put it simply, it was, and still is, stressful. Back to developing. I ended up having a lot of trouble implementing the rent system that I was trying to code. I didn't want to deal with all the math involved in coding it so that you could pay back the rent you owed as you made money working. Instead, what I did was, when I implemented the economy system so that the player could make money working and spend money on gifts, the total amount of money could be positive or negative. Rent would always come out on the first of the month and put your account in the negative if you didn't have enough money. If your account was in the negative, you wouldn't be allowed to purchase anything. This would be accompanied by a sound effect and a visual effect on your money, implying that you don't have the funds to purchase what you're trying to buy. Honestly, with some of the methods and coding I've developed so far for systems like this, I started to begin to wonder what it looked like for other developers, both indie and AAA. How simple or complicated was their coding for things like this? For instance, for the economy system, when you click on the item you want to buy in Rainbow Heartbeats, the programming checks with an if statement if your current money value is equal to or greater than the amount that gift costs. If it is, the gift price is subtracted from your total money with math, and a little ka-ching sound plays. If it isn't, a little error sound plays, and the money flashes red. This is literally handled the most inefficient way possible, I'm sure, in my code, but was the simplest method I knew of offhand. So before you judge my programming, just remember, I'm not an expert. I've been doing C# coding on and off for a year, and Unity forums aren't usually helpful. Just a bunch of people telling you to check the documentation, even when I've already said I checked it but don't understand it. Once the economy system was done, it was time to finalize small things. The inventory needed to be developed, I had the UI in place, I just needed to program it. There was music, voice lines, and ambience tracks that needed to be configured and tweaked. I still needed to add in bits and pieces for Izumi and me storylines, and there was a whole bunch of playtesting to be done. So, 216 days at the time of writing this into the official documented development, because I have no frame of reference for anything before this documented, other than knowing that I spent a great deal of last winter working on background and concept arts, we are well on our way to a working demo. It was at this point, like many other indie developers, that I considered making a Kickstarter. Now, there are several major issues with this. Firstly, I had no major marketing done because I work a day job, and I can't afford to pay rent and pay to market my game. So the total reach would not be anywhere it should have been if proper marketing had been or could be done. I have a small reach on Twitter because although visual novels can be and typically are fairly popular, I am one of 100,000 other people also trying to make a visual novel or a game in general. Secondly, making a Kickstarter wouldn't guarantee faster completion of the game. I have a couple of modest goals and milestones in mind for if I were to start a Kickstarter. I thought that if I could ask and obtain a couple months worth of my salary, I could ask for a couple months off from my job so I could devote it to mental health breaks and working solely on finishing the game. But broaching this with my employer only made me realize that if I did this, they'd replace me, and I'd immediately be out of a job. So unless I was able to make my yearly salary from the Kickstarter, which was about $38,000, there would be no way I'd be able to feasibly take the time off of work to devote all of my time to only making the game while still being able to pay my rent. and there was no way that I was going to get nearly 40 grand for my little project with a simple scope. Thirdly, most successful visual novel Kickstarter projects were fully backed because of their sex appeal or notoriety. Looking through the funded projects on Kickstarter, a good 80% of projects were remakes of games already published in different countries, sequels to already popular games, or sexually explicit games that included graphic depictions with busty girls and bulging guys. To be honest, Rainbow Heartbeats was going to adopt those themes as well. It was originally marketed as a mix between Dream Daddy, Honey Pop, and Blush Blush. I'm still on the shelf about whether or not I want to eventually include sexually explicit material, but a big part of me wanted to make the game more wholesome than sexual. So for now, there are no active plans to pursue anything strictly adult only. The other 20% of visual novels funded on Kickstarter were games with tiny goals. People asking for under $5,000 or just enough to get their art done, which is usually a couple $100s. I'd need a lot more to get some real headway done and to justify the amount of time I was putting into making the game. So as it stands, whether or not a Kickstarter is made entirely depends on what kind of chances I feel like taking. Do I just ask for enough to put it up on the Steam store? That way my friends and family can show their support by throwing in $20 here and there? Or do I just continue on and save the Kickstarter for a more ambitious project, like the 3D horror survival I have planned for after Rainbow Heartbeats is done? I guess we'll have to find out. With the release of this devlog, I am happy to announce that the demo is out for free download on itch.io. You can click the link here. You can also watch the official release trailer for Rainbow Heartbeats here. All links are available in the description below, including a link to my Twitter page and official itch.io page for more updates or insights into projects I'm working on. You can play the demo to completion for the first 6 characters, including the secret character, but how you find them is up to you. In the next devlog, we'll be tackling the future of Rainbow Heartbeats and where we go from here now that the core gameplay loop is complete and all major functions are working and playable. Thanks for watching!